I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle live once again from Arizona tonight. We're just 4 days away from the critical midterm elections, and there are really two things that currently hang in the balance. An economy, as evidenced by today's job reports, it's roaring, my friends, and an immigration policy that makes sense. And my simple message is this: let's not stop success, America. Since we're here in the Grand Canyon State, we thought it was really important to talk to some of the voters here. So I'm talking about people who have different political affiliations, different races, different walks of life, to hear firsthand what really matters most to them ahead of Tuesday's elections. Now, these are the voters who are going to decide the neck-and-neck Arizona race now between Martha McSally, Republican, and the Democrat Kyrsten Sinema. We're going to talk to McSally just ahead, but first, we wanted to hear from the voters themselves. We started this evening with the pressing issue of immigration and how illegals have affected this border state. Raymond Arroyo joined me for the questioning of this group. Here's part one. I want to begin with an issue that is front and center right now, and that's the issue of immigration. Now, there are multiple caravans barreling toward our southern border, and as a border state here in Arizona, a lot of the migrants could end up in your own backyard. So, show of hands here. How many of you think we should welcome all members of the caravan despite evidence that there are criminals within the group? Raise your hand. All members of the caravan.
I don't think there's criminals in the group.
You don't think there are any criminals?
No, I don't think there's any criminals. I think there are women and children who are trying to get away from fear and military dictators and all kinds of other problems in their countries, and they're looking for asylum.
Griff Jenkins was our correspondent down, and he's been with the caravan for a number of days. He interviewed various members of the caravan, and this is what he found out on Sunday. Let's watch.
Are you willing to break the law to get back to the United States?
Yo quiero entrar y pedir un perdón.
He says he wants to apply for pardon for the felony he committed.
Can you ask him exactly what happened?
¿Cuál es tu felonía exactamente?
Number 3.
A third-degree felony?
Intento de matar.
Attempt of murder.
Dan, your reaction?
My reaction is that most of these women and children and families are coming here for asylum, and they're doing it the right way. You have to go to a port of entry, you have to turn yourself in at a port of entry, and you have to apply for asylum. Now, if they don't fit asylum, then they have to go back. But if they meet the criteria for asylum, they're not breaking the law. They should be let in.
Now, let's listen to what President Trump has to say about the way women feel about this caravan.
I don't want them in our country. And women don't want them in our country. Women want security. Men don't want them in our country, but the women do not want them. Women want security.
Terry, I saw you nodding your head or shaking your head a minute ago.
I don't care if nobody is a criminal. Have some respect for this country and do it the legal way. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I switched over for Trump just to vote for him. I've always felt this way. If we let these people come in this way, it's going to set a precedent. They're suffering everywhere in the world. Where do we draw the line? Charity starts at home. Let's take care of our own first and foremost. Then we do it the legal way, not illegally.
Laura, I see Roy sitting next to Terry, champing at the bit. Go ahead, Roy.
I mean, to hear Trump say that women don't want the caravan to come in, I'm sure a number of women wouldn't want to be around Donald Trump. But first and foremost, I would say that let's go through the process. Let's process each case by case. If there was a proper system of immigration in place, then we could properly vet those that were trying to enter into the country and decipher who was a criminal and who was seeking asylum.
Julia, you wanted to say what?
Yeah, there is a system how to come to this country. I am an immigrant, and I did it the right way. You file your paperwork, you get approved, you come here. It's as simple as that.
Well, here's the problem, is that right now our system is being gamed. That's what a lot of people view. That the asylum system, it's a good thing to allow people to come in for asylum for certain credible fears. Fear of religious persecution, fear of ethnic cleansing, true fears of persecution for political outlook. But what's happening for most of these migrants, and we had the Mexican ambassador and the Guatemalan interior minister on the other night on the angle, and they both said that most of these migrants, overwhelmingly, they're economic. They're coming because, like hundreds of millions of people around the world, America is a great place to live. And it's better than most countries in the world. And so they want to come there. Well, let's go to Sergio.
Laura, I want to, what the media isn't also showing is that they're passing live feeds of what's happening in Mexico with this caravan. And the caravan is assaulting police officers, and they're throwing rocks, and they're leaving trash, and they're tearing apart the country of Mexico. You have people there, the own Mexican residents that are living there, that are saying, go back to your country, stop tearing apart ours.
But there was also a feed of them partying and having a good time and being welcomed in different parts of the community.
But they're taking this mindset, and they're coming and they're bringing it down to this border.
Yvonne, and on the top there.
I'm an immigrant to this country, and I came here legally. It took me 10 years to get my citizenship, and I also worked in the healthcare industry. And, they look at this caravan. This is an organized group. I really feel it's an invasion of our country. I mean, this is an organized caravan. They have people that have trucks that are hauling these people on the freeway, and then they look at the caravan. They're finding that 80% of it are men, and less than 20% are women and children.
Yeah, the officials that are monitoring this, the Mexican officials, the Guatemalan officials, both that we've talked to and that we've interviewed, have confirmed that. They're overwhelmingly able-bodied, working-age men, women and children being put in the front. And the description of from one of the officials was almost like a human shield. That's a fact. That's not a political opinion. No matter what people think about immigration, that's fine, but it's not a political opinion. That's a fact. And I have a question. How many of you here, and you're all of different backgrounds and political persuasions, object to the use of the word invasion? Raise your hand.
Of course.
So that's about half, about split. Yep. How many of the people who object to the use of the word invasion are Democrats? Raise your hand.
They're coming here with their own flag, flying their own flag. They drew a swastika on the American flag and burned it in front of the Honduran assembly. It's an invasion. I'm sorry, it's an invasion.
There are people that fly the Confederate flag.
I'm sorry,
today. There are people that fly the Confederate flag.
I'm sorry, you want to come to this country?
There are people that fly the Confederate flag, so you talk about them burning their flag.
Okay.
All right.
Am I going to have to separate you two?
All right, back row. Hold on. No, we got to give everybody a viewpoint here.
So in terms of it being organized, how is that different than caravans of boats that came over with what we call pilgrims, which were simply European refugees? How is that any different when we're talking about caravans and invasions, but we're not talking about what is the original the invasion of where we sit? We are on invaded land that we invaded. Well, not I, right? But Devin Coach, who didn't look like me, invaded this land.
Well, I think how many here believe that in part these caravans have a political motivation in their organization? Raise your hand.
Aren't they suing? They just
certainly. We're going to get to that. Let's remember, everybody has to get.
Clyde wanted to say something here.
Clyde.
I just wanted to mention and harken back to what you said regarding gaming the system, and what that gentleman said is probably true. We've been gaming the system ever since we arrived by the Mayflower. That's why I believe we have laws, and that's why I think we have a system. I think we do need comprehensive immigration. I got here in 1969. I've been hearing the same story over and over and over again. So I think that we need to take the rule of law and we need to enforce it. And when you said welcome, I'm not sure what that means. We're a welcoming country that can vet each and every individual and use the power of the United States of America to keep us the United States of America.
There was an important thing we learned at the very beginning. This is a half Republican, half Democrat group. Only one person said they wanted to welcome that caravan.
Yep.
It's very interesting the way these Arizona voters are breaking down. This is similar to what I found when we were in Texas last week. Very similar. Now, as you know, President Trump has moved or vowed to move 15,000 troops to the border.
Already moved the initial to Texas, the Texas border, which is where most of these migrants will arrive within the next month.
And President Obama is now responding. We want to play this for you. Get your reaction. Watch.
They're even taking our brave troops away from their families for a political stunt at the border. And the men and women of our military deserve better than that.
Is this a political stunt in your mind? Raise your hand.
Hold on. Raise your hand if you believe there's no reason to have the U.S. military at a border and it's purely politics.
It is politics.
All right, hold on. We got to give everybody here a voice. Yeah. Yes, sir.
It is purely politics, and I believe this rhetoric is dangerous. When I go back to the word invasion, we are the greatest country in the entire world, and we are scared of a caravan full of folks who are coming to seek asylum. I feel that we can have better use of our troops' time and resources. Here in Arizona, at any given time where I live in my community, we have over 500 homeless youth. 1 in 4 children go hungry. I don't feel this is a great way to utilize our nation's resources. And so, again, we have to be very careful when we use the word invasion. I don't see this as an invasion.
How many people here are aware of the percentage of drugs coming into the country that come through Arizona? Let's have some guesses. What percentage of drugs come through Arizona?
60%.
6?
No, it's a 16.
40%.
Bingo. 40% of the drugs coming into the country come through our southern border. The porous nature of our border.
But I also trust the current law enforcement officials we have, and I don't feel that they need babysitters. We have thousands of Border Patrol agents.
I have another question for the crowd, and then we're going to move on to another topic. Another question for the crowd. Okay, here's another question. Do you prefer our military to enforce the borders of other countries, which they're doing in Syria and Iraq, in Afghanistan, mostly in the Middle East, or enforcing, if necessary, the borders of the United States? First question, do you want the military enforcing the borders of other countries or the border of the United States? Let's go to Laura.
Totally okay with the military protecting our borders, provided that we were being attacked. Yeah. I feel like that the nation is crippled in fear right now in each party, and everybody is like just polarized because everybody's either bad or everybody's good, and there's no in the middle. Like regardless of the caravan, there's a lot of people who are at the border already who walked, whatever, that are really seeking asylum. So we can't lump everybody together.
Does asylum mean
one or the other?
Seeking a job in the United States? Is that asylum?
No, but
that's what most of the people at the caravan want.
No, yeah, I agree. I believe the caravan's like probably a little different, but
that's actually not. The caravan is overwhelmingly according to DHS, according to the Mexican and Guatemalan officials. There's a lot of great people. A lot of great people there. But overwhelmingly, when they're interviewed, overwhelmingly before they're coached, they're interviewed. They're set. They want to work.
Right.
Or they want their family members are here. And I think a lot of people understand that. It's very different from a systematic ethnic cleansing, systematic persecution. The Christians in the Middle East are being beheaded, buried alive with their heads. That's a different type of situation. So we've got to be careful with our terminology. Another issue which is nation gripped right now is the issue of race. I want to play for this group, all of you have different backgrounds, what is being said lately about President Trump. Let's watch.
The president's obviously a racist. He's obviously a demagogue.
The rhetoric of this racist, heartless, soulless man will lead to more violence. Yes, I said that, and a lot of Americans believe it too.
It's a naked appeal to fear and hate is what it is, and it is racist. The president has always used fear to his advantage.
Show of hands, how many people think those media appraisals are accurate? 1, 2, 3, 4. Who feels they're unfair? Why? Julia.
I don't see the president as a person that is a racist. He has shown that he has had many people of different backgrounds, ethnic, everything. And I don't think race is the issue. It is I don't like you. I don't care because
what did I do
you are because who you are. It doesn't matter of your background, whether you were English, German, white, Asian. It doesn't matter. It's constantly used to make this man look bad. Use something different. Try something new.
How many people here believe that the charge of racism is used too casually in the United States? Raise your hand.
Why? Clyde.
Well, I just think that what you're seeing is the last gasp of a desperate group that needs votes, because that's all the Democrats have. And you notice they're very quiet about Louis Farrakhan, and I went to the same school as he did in Boston, know quite a lot about that gentleman. And nothing is said about the things that he has said, such as Jews being termites, and going back to the original time that he first got started. So I would say that they're just using that, and I'm not seeing that. And yes, we've got a president that's kind of a newbie about being a president, and he is himself, and he's a human being. But I would say that they're just using this as race baiting and race. And if you crack a history book, you would see who very surely is the person who has got us into many of these situations concerning race with African Americans.
If you crack a history book, you'll see that there was 287 years of slavery based on race. It wasn't based on anything else.
And promulgated by the Democrats. And promulgated by the Democrats
in America
from day one.
Based on race. We're not talking about political party.
13th, 14th, and 15th.
And the party that...
We're not talking about politics. We're talking about based on race. Hold on. We're talking about based on race. I let everybody talk. Can I make my point?
Yes.
We're talking about based on race. African Americans have been enslaved. African Americans after slavery, after 1865, were subjugated to 100 years of Jim Crow, lynching, disenfranchisement based on race. So don't say that the only people that are playing race identity politics have no merit. There's a huge merit. There's a huge merit to.
Okay, well, she hasn't spoken yet.
There's also the Jewish community too. You cannot.
I'm not talking about.
She asked a specific question.
We're talking about race.
Laura asked a specific question about.
Okay, one at a time. To respond.
She asked a specific question about whether Trump and everybody, is he racist? He's not. It is an excuse. There's no proof. There's no background.
Do you know?
Let's one person speak, guys.
My good friend Marianne Mendoza knows him, and I know. Yes, absolutely. Don't. It's not personal. Roy, this is not personal. I'm just saying you make a convoluted argument when you start bringing in slavery.
I'm not making a convoluted argument. I'm giving you the background. I'm giving you the history of the country.
Okay, one at a time.
Okay, guys. Economic opportunity in the United States. We're going to get into this. What's happened economically, and whether that has an effect in making people see things maybe a little bit differently, especially Latino communities, African American communities, Asian communities, and how prosperity is rising across the board. Up next, Trace Gallagher is going to highlight some of the tightest Senate races, and then we're going to talk to Arizona Republican senatorial candidate Martha McSally. Stay there. All right, we're 4 days away from the midterms, and some of these races are in dead heats, including right here in Arizona. In moments, we'll talk with Republican Senate candidate Martha McSally. But first, Fox's Trace Gallagher joins us now with an important update. Trace.
Hi, Laura. If you look at just the Fox News polls over the past 2 months, the Indiana Senate race has seen a significant shift in the numbers. In September, GOP challenger Mike Braun was up by 2 points over Democratic incumbent Joe Donnelly. In early October, that flipped and Donnelly was up by 2. Now, Donnelly has increased the lead to 7 points, but don't write off Mike Braun just yet, because according to the Real Clear Politics average, Donnelly is up by less than 1 point, meaning this race still appears to be a dead heat. In the Show Me State Senate race, no matter what polls you look at, it is a toss-up. The RCP average has Republican challenger Josh Hawley leading by 2 points over Missouri Democratic incumbent Claire McCaskill, and that's within the margin of error. The Fox News poll has them deadlocked at 43% each, and it's been that way for the past month. And we should note that polls also show Missouri Democrats appear to be more interested in the election than Missouri Republicans. Republicans, even though 54% of likely Missouri voters approve of the president's job performance. The Florida Senate race seems to change with the seasons. For most of the spring, Democratic incumbent Senator Bill Nelson held a very steady lead over Florida Republican Governor Rick Scott. Then came summer, and Rick Scott took the lead. But now the leaves have changed, and so have the polls. According to the RCP average, Bill Nelson is back on top by 2 points. It appears Rick Scott could use a heat wave. Finally, to Arizona, where Fox News polls showed Democrat Kristen Sinema and Republican Martha McSally dead even at 46% each. That's a bad trend for Sinema, who was up by 2 points in early October and up 3 in September, although the Real Clear Politics average still has Sinema up by just over a half point. But all of these polls were taken before Green Party candidate Angela Green dropped out and endorsed Kristen Sinema. And we should note, Sinema was a Green Party activist, but has tried very hard to distance herself from her past. Laura.
All right, thanks so much, Trace. And joining me now to discuss that latest toss-up that Trace just mentioned is the woman vying to become its next senator, Republican Martha McSally of Arizona. Congresswoman, thanks for being here tonight. I want to start with immigration. We just completed a focus group, so important for the voters of the state. How is your view on immigration different from your opponents?
Well, it's like night and day. I represent a border district. I chair the Border Security Subcommittee, and I'm leading, working with President Trump to make sure we build the wall, secure the border, close these crazy loopholes that are being taken advantage of every single day, and chain migration, the visa lottery, and, move forward in a way that is protecting Americans. My opponent was actually an activist helping people cross illegally in her past, and even though she's had amazing political makeover trying to fool the voters here, she's voted to support sanctuary cities. And a really important vote here that's meaningful in Arizona is she voted against Grant's Law. This was named after Grant Ronenbeck. Yes. And the Angel families have endorsed me. They had a press conference the other day. She refused to meet with them. Grant was shot point blank by somebody who shouldn't have been here and should have been held until they were deported. And that law actually protects people in our community. And she refused to vote yes on this. So she's extreme and out of touch and out of the mainstream.
Well, she's trying to be a centrist on this. I want to play something for you because she's basically saying, I'm just as good as Martha McSally on issues like sending troops to the border. Let's watch.
In Arizona, it's not new for us to have military deployment to the border to provide a support role for our Customs and Border Patrol agents who are down there. So we wish them well and tell them to stay hydrated.
Give me a break. I mean, she has no idea what she's talking about, and she's in the liberal witness protection program right now because border security is so important to all Arizonans. Thoughtful Democrats, and that's not an oxymoron because, there are still some who care about safety and security, independents and Republicans. Look, she's extreme on this issue. Look, I am wholeheartedly support President Trump sending our troops in a support role to secure our border. They support natural disasters. This is a disaster going on in our border.
She basically says the same thing.
Yes, stay hydrated, right? Give me a break. So look, I welcome to our community. They're coming to Davis-Monthan and Fort Huachuca. I know they're going to do a great job. I served in the military. They are serving and sacrificing. Border security is national security, and this.
Some of our focus group that we just did claim this is all big political stunt.
Absolutely not. No, it's not. Look, we have cartels that are trafficking people and drugs through our communities right now. I represent ranchers on the border. They've endorsed me. So have the Border Patrol agents representing 15,000 agents. They know the dangerous activity that's happening every single day on our border.
Birthright citizenship, important issue. A lot of Arizona hospitals affected by this. Migrant families, women come, have their children, automatic passport, automatic American citizenship. Your view?
Yeah, and then we see the Chinese are coming over. There's a whole fraudulent way for them to do that. Look, I appreciate the president's bringing this up and the abuses of it. If we actually secured our border and we actually cracked down on illegal immigration and closed these loopholes, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So once again, he's highlighting things that are being abused, in our
14th Amendment cover it or not, in your view?
I'm not a constitutional expert. I just think if we secure our border and close these loopholes, then we would stop this from happening altogether.
The migrant lawsuit against President Trump and the administration. It's 6 kids are in it, 6 kids, and a number of Honduran nationals saying what the president said in part, mentioning our show. The legal problem with Trump's plan to stop caravan persons from entering this country is that plaintiffs are seeking asylum, and goes on to say, and Trump simply cannot stop them from legally doing so or using the military or anyone.
You can't make this up. I mean, this is just another example of people trying to take advantage of the weaknesses in our laws that we in Congress need to fix. My bill, which you also very strongly supported, often called the Goodlatte bill, but it was the Goodlatte-McSally bill, McCall and Labrador. We work really hard on this and with President Trump to close these loopholes, to make sure that people can't just show up and demand to be in our country and be released into the interior of the United States. This is happening every single day here in Arizona. Hundreds of little mini caravans are taking advantage of this. And now they're trying to sue the president. This has to stop. We must secure our border now.
Are you worried about this Green Party kook now endorsing Sinema? I was polling at about 6%, but she's a centrist. But suddenly the Green Party person likes the centrist? What?
Well, Sinema actually was a Green Party activist and first ran for office as Green Party, ran Ralph Nader's campaign. So it actually, I think, is, a completion of her being identified for who she truly is. Angela Green, the Green Party candidate, was true to herself as a liberal. And the fact that she's getting behind Sinema hopefully should have people wake up and realize Sinema's not a moderate. She's an extreme liberal. She's out of the mainstream. And this just brings it back to full circle of where her roots are.
Why is this race so close?
Money. Chuck Schumer, George Soros, and others have poured tens of millions of dollars into Kyrsten Sinema to present this image to the Arizona voters that she's actually right of center. It's not true. It's the biggest political cover-up in Arizona history. I just ask people across the country who are listening, if you want to help us make sure we keep this seat. We pick up North Dakota. We don't want to cancel it out in Arizona, right? This is for everybody, not just in Arizona. Please go to McSallyForSenate.com. We need people to contribute, but we need people to get off the sidelines in Arizona, to tell your friends and family, to get out to the polls, to make sure that we hold this seat. This is about the direction of our country.
1 to 10, how important is the Trump factor here in Arizona? He's very popular here.
It's very important. Look, John Jr. was out here yesterday. President Trump was here a couple weeks ago. I flew on Marine One. I'm working very closely with him on so many things, rebuilding our military, securing our border. Look at the economy. I mean, it's amazing. We want to keep things going, and that's what this election is about.
Congresswoman, best of luck.
Thanks a lot.
Close it hard for
appreciate it.
Strong close. And if you like what you saw from the first part of our focus group, stay right there. Up next, the Trump effect. Illegal immigrants, should they get free health care in the United States? Raise your hand.
Absolutely.
Free health care for illegal immigrants.
Well, you have to pay through
free college?
Free college.
Well, as you'd expect, President Donald Trump looms large over these midterms, no matter what party you're supporting. What did our focus group think about the so-called Trump effect? Watch. 29% approval rating now among African Americans in the latest poll for this president. 29%. It was 11% a year ago. And this is not a conservative poll. This is this is, I believe, the Harvard-Harris poll.
Yep.
And so that's a significant increase. Why do we think that's happening? And do we think Democrats are freaking out about that?
Yes, they are.
A lot of people aren't reporting when they're unemployed over a long period of time. That statistics show that people no longer report or no longer on the books when they're unemployed for a long period of time. And many African Americans have experienced long-term unemployment, so they're not even being counted.
Well, I think the unemployment rate with the African American community is the lowest it's ever been.
But he's saying it's not real. The number's not real. But
well, that's what he's
saying.
Racist, but that's what Roy says.
Racist sooner because he has done more for the Latino and black community than Obama ever did. And I voted for the man. He has done more for our community.
He just says it. That's what they do.
There's
a disconnect.
Yeah. Guys, we have to move on from this topic. But is just want to close this out? Do charges of racism encourage more speech or limit speech? I get the sense that people kind of pull back when the charge is made, that people pull back.
We just witnessed neo-Nazis marching. We just witnessed neo-Nazis marching in Charlottesville.
Tristan.
You wanted to say something, Tristan?
Tristan.
I don't feel like people are pulling back at all. We have just recently, with the 3 events that happened and just recently, and I don't like to point out, like, this political side did this or that. That's useless and divisive. But we should acknowledge that the guy that sent all these bombs, he did have that van and he was a devout supporter. And then with the shooting in the synagogue, he was a devout supporter. And
No, he wasn't a devout. No,
Sorry. Okay, hey.
He was not.
Thank you for correcting me. Thank you for correcting me.
And Steve Scalise was almost killed, and he was a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Well, let's just go back to it.
Guys, you guys can't dominate. You guys can't dominate.
We're listening to Tristan.
We have Tristan as a young person. We want him to hear.
And thank you for calling me out on that, for real. Like, thank you. But still, the climate that we're in right now, people are really willing to do and say these things, and it's not a right or left thing. It's all over the place. I feel like conversation there's a lot of conversation, and sometimes it gets really messy, and honestly, that's sad.
How many people here, show of hands, will race affect your vote in this upcoming midterm election? Is race important to you and the way it's been depicted?
Race is always
and your vote.
And your vote.
Race is always been important.
Okay, we got to move on, guys. I want to get into the idea that this election, many people are saying it's a referendum on President Trump. So regardless of which party you're voting for, is there anyone here only voting on Tuesday as a pro or anti-Trump sentiment? Raise your hand. Is it about Trump for you on Tuesday? Raise your hand.
It's for me.
Okay. As a Democrat?
I'm not.
You're not a Democrat.
Okay. She's an independent.
Oh, you're an independent.
You're paying back now, aren't you?
Getting in there.
The current economy today is at the strongest it's been in my lifetime. There's never been a better time to be a small business owner, to be entering the workforce for the first time. Never a better time. Today, news came out, 3.5% wage increase, which is the largest we've had since 2009. Unemployment is down to a 1967 low, which is fantastic across all economic strata. How many of you here today give Trump credit for this economic revival and the wage increase? Raise your hand. You haven't spoken, another young person. I want to hear from the youth.
I go to school up north. I'm in a small town, and the wage increases have really affected our small town because it's very, like I said, very small. So it's really hard not only to find jobs because small businesses can't afford to pay its workers, but it's really hard just to, like, a lot of those companies are going out of business, and we're losing a lot of really valuable companies that were really important to our market.
Debbie.
I'm a small business owner, Latina-owned, woman-owned. Mm-hmm. And actually the taxes from Trump have done very well for our small business.
Tax cuts?
Cuts, yes.
Mm-hmm. What have they resulted in?
Well, right now at $1,200, so that's pretty good. It gives me the opportunity to pay my employees the rate increase, the wage increase that I was forced upon me, instead of cutting hours.
How many Democrats here, those of you who are Democrats, are you concerned that the House of Representatives being turned over to Democrats would upset the economic recovery? Raise your hand. Even if you're going to vote Democrat, are you concerned about the economy being adversely affected?
I am. And at least as a representative from southern Arizona, like I'm a neighbor with Raul Grijalva's District 3, and that is like one of the poorest districts in the country. And he's a Democrat, and I'm a Democrat, but you know what, it's not about, for me, it's not always about party line, it's about what are you doing for the people. And him and his daughter have hurt southern Arizona, Adelita Grijalva, more than any other politicians in Arizona, in my opinion. So in that regard, I don't want that man in office. We need the Republican in District 3 to win that race because I know it's not going to happen, but it needs to happen because that district is extremely poor. There's no economic growth. There's nothing.
How many of you here will miss Jeff Flake? Raise your hand. How many of you here will miss Jeff Flake in the U.S. Senate?
Only his sanity.
Okay.
Sometimes.
He has about an 18% approval rating, but that's okay. All right, while we're talking about Arizona, this is what Kristen Sinema, of course the Democrat who wants to be your next senator, said about the state she hopes to represent. Let's listen.
So all around the world, people know what's happening in Arizona, and not in a good way, right? We're not famous like in a good way. We're kind of like in a Lindsay Lohan kind of famous way.
The states are the laboratories of democracy, and then my state, Arizona, is clearly the meth lab of democracy. Republicans get a free ride when they call the Tea Party something other than what they are. And we have to say, no, Tea Party, Republican, it's all the same thing. It's called crazy.
To the Democrats in the room, put your hands up if that offends you in any way.
Well, it depends. I couldn't really hear it very well. I have a lot of disagreements with Kyrsten Sinema over the years, and I'm a good friend of hers. But she is 10 times better than McSally on the issues right from the top to the bottom.
Now, the further removed we are from the Kavanaugh confirmation fight, the more the baseless charges against him unravel. Ann Coulter is here, and she'll be with us later to tell us about another criminal referral involving a Kavanaugh accuser. And up next, when Hollywood comes out to stump for Democrats, does anyone care? And wait until you hear what our focus group tells us. Don't go anywhere.
I probably would put a fire under me, especially with all the misogyny going on.
Tina.
That's what it's directed at.
Democratic candidates are bringing out the big guns. Celebrities are making ads, knocking on doors as the White House pushes back. You get a vote, and you get a vote, and you get a vote.
It's Will Ferrell and here in Kennesaw State, home of the Owls. Trying to get people to volunteer.
I'd like to remind Stacey and Oprah and Will Ferrell, I'm kind of a big deal too. This ain't Hollywood. This is Georgia.
Okay, so does trotting out Hollywood heavyweights actually move voters? We asked our focus group. Take a look. How many people here in Arizona would have your vote affected one way or another by a celebrity's endorsement? Raise your hand. No one. Either side.
It's insulting that they're out there.
They have a right just like anybody else.
Go ahead. Alex, you're one of the people they're targeting, young people. Your reaction to that?
As much fun as I have seeing Kanye West and Donald Trump in the White House with the hats on, I'm not going to base my political views off that. And you can get your mileage out of it, but at the end of the day, you probably should not make that the be-all, end-all.
Take a look at this brand new political ad directed by a brilliant film director and actress, Jodie Foster.
If somebody asked you, what do you care about? What would you say?
Losing your health care.
Equal pay.
Equal rights.
What really, honestly matters to you?
If basic human rights matter, then vote.
If women's rights really are human rights,
then vote.
Don't lose hope.
To the ladies here, would that ad in any way motivate you to go to the polls? Show of hands. Yes, if it would. In the back. Why?
Well, if I wasn't going to vote or had no motivation, I probably would put a fire under me, especially with all the misogyny going on.
What is the most important issue for all of you, both parties, no parties, on Tuesday? The most important issue?
I think for Arizonans in general right now, I think the top issue is clearly immigration. And it's driven by the caravan that it's on its way here. And I think we talked about it, but there's a twofold there with immigration. There's the regulatory system that's broken, but there's a border security issue that's also broken. And that's why you have to see the military making sure we send a clear signal that we're just not going to let people in our back door.
The number one issue is healthcare. Healthcare for all. That's the biggest issue. I mean, people need. How many? 35 million people are without health care.
Including the new illegal immigrants. Should they get free health care in the United States? Raise your hand.
Absolutely.
Free health care for
illegal immigrants. Well, you have to pay for it through.
Free college?
Free college.
Oh, all right. Let's go.
Absolutely.
You better make a lot of money.
Support that idea. Free college, free health care for illegal immigrants.
Do African Americans or veterans all get free college? We have 300,000 veterans living on the street. Homeless veterans on the street tonight.
My kids. You should make health care in Germany, and there's 60% taxes. So do you want
Medicare for all is not free.
It's all free.
I'm on Medicare. Medicare, I have.
There won't be any Medicare dollars for you, my friend. All right.
53% of us are working. 40 to pay taxes. We are supporting those people, whether they're illegal or whatever. I can't work anymore and I can't pay any more taxes. 47% are on the dole. How much greater does that number need to go before we become a socialist country?
Hold on, guys. While we're talking about that, birthright citizenship, should children born by neither parent is an American citizen, neither parent is here legally as a worker or anything like that, but just a legal immigrant in the United States, has a child, should that child immediately become an American citizen?
Yes. Of course, it's a 14th Amendment.
Show of hands.
14th Amendment. Yes.
It's a 14th Amendment.
It's in the Constitution.
So all children, so 300,000 children of illegal immigrants automatically become.
They should be citizens.
Okay. All right, it got really raucous there. We could have done the whole hour on this. I'm going to do more of these. So much fun. Another Kavanaugh accuser, by the way, facing potentially severe criminal punishment over a false claim against the now Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Ann Coulter is here next to break it all down and what it could mean for the midterms. Democratic candidates are bringing out the big guns. Celebrities are making ads, knocking on doors as the White House pushes back. You get a vote, and you get a vote, and you get a vote.
It's Will Ferrell here in Kennesaw State, home of the Owls. Trying to get people to volunteer.
I'd like to remind Stacey and Oprah and Will Ferrell, I'm kind of a big deal too. This ain't Hollywood. This is Georgia.
Okay, so does trotting out Hollywood heavyweights actually move voters? We asked our focus group. Take a look. How many people here in Arizona would have your vote affected one way or another by a celebrity's endorsement? Raise your hand. No one. Either side.
It's insulting that they're out there.
They have a right just like anybody else.
Go ahead. Alex, you're